Story. Izuku's Pav. I don't know what to do now. I have no idea where to start. My mother returned after the sudden phone call she got. She told me it was Ochako's parents asking for the location of the hospital. Of course Mom relayed the address to them and are on the way to as we speak. What am I going to say now? This is not how I imagined meeting her parents for the first time. How am I going to face them, knowing I am the one responsible for her coma? As I realized this, I began shaking in fear of their contempt. They will have every reason to hate me for what I did. I caused this mess. I went back to the seat beside Ochako's bed after I ate the meal my mom prepared for me. I didn't actually finish it, I just ate what I can. I didn't have the appetite anyway. As I sat beside Ochako, I caressed the hair covering her face. Seeing her lie without a single reflex feels like a thorn in my neck. If only we didn't go out. If only I was smart enough and considered the possibility of that wretched villain attacking us. If only I was strong enough to protect her. I held my hands together and leaned my elbow against her bed and lowered my head. It was then that I felt my mother's hand on my shoulder. I turned to look at her and saw her face. I know you're thinking about what you're going to tell her parents, Izuku, she said, looking at me with a worried expression. I was a little out of words. No. I was exhausted. Unable to say another word, I nodded my head up and down to answer her question. It's going to be okay, son. They'll understand, my mom uttered as she stroked my back. After half an hour, I heard the room's door slide open. I turned to look behind me and saw a woman had the same chestnut hair and a perpetual blush on her cheeks like Ochako's. It didn't take long for me to realize she is. Behind her is a well-built man who with a darker tone of blonde hair. I took a deep breath as I felt my heart beat rapidly at the sight of Ochako's parents. I braced myself as I saw them approach me and my mom. How is she, Inko? What did the doctor say? Ochako's mother asked. My mom and her have been well acquainted with one another since the war, especially that time when Ochako spoke up so I could stay in Ua. Maruku, the doctor said as of now. She's unresponsive, she won't be waking up anytime soon. Mom told her, giving her a quick hug as she saw her shed a tear. Hearing Ochako's mom in tears suffering for what I did to their daughter is hard to watch. All I can do is stare at the ground in shame for the pain I caused. After the brief conversation with my mom, Maruku approached her daughter's hospital bed and held her daughter's hand as she caressed her cheek. Mr. Uraraka, on the other hand, her dad, stood in silence by the foot of the bed and stared at his unresponsive daughter. Ochako, Mom and Dad are here, honey, Mrs. Uraraka muttered as she clutched Ochako's hand against her chin. I'm sorry we weren't here soon enough. As Mrs. Uraraka sobbed in anguish, I felt the guilt wash over me. I have all the words I can say, but somehow I can't say. Soon enough I felt a tear flow down to my cheeks. Normal Pav. As Midoriya stood in the corner of the room weeping discreetly, Ochako's father suddenly spoke. Izuku, Midoriya, right? You're the guy dating our daughter? Mr. Uraraka asked in a stern and intimidating voice. Why, yes. Izuku was caught off guard, but he still answered weakly. I heard you were with her when the incident happened. I'm glad you're okay at least. At that moment, he felt the weight of the world in his chest. He allowed himself to fall on his knees and lowered his head close to the ground. I'm sorry. I did this to her. She did nothing but support me, but I ended up hurting her. I was supposed to be the one to protect her, but in the end she protected me. I know you won't be able to forgive me for what I did. I'll accept anything you will say to me. I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Uraraka. Deku whimpered. By that point Inko was on the verge of breaking down. She rushed to his son to help him up, but he wasn't moving at all. He was determined to come clean and remained glued to the ground, feeling his tears continuously flowing and dropping to the floor. I was warned that he will come for me, yet I didn't take the threat to heart. Still went out with her accompanying me. I should have listened. I should have been stronger. The Uraraka parents stood in shock of what the boy in front of them was saying. Inko on the other hand was just staring at her son having no idea what to do. She knew that interrupting him right now would only make things worse. As Ochako's parents listened to Izuku's apology, they began to remember their daughter's cry during the war when she stood her ground to protect the boy breaking down in front of them. Son, it wasn't your fault. Izuku's eyes widened as he heard the male voice and realized who it was. As he looked up and saw Ochako's father stooping down to placing his hand over Midoriya's shoulder. What happened to my daughter? I don't blame you for it, Ochako's father assured. But, we know you didn't intend for this to happen. We know you did what you can. I'm glad you're okay, Izuku. The mother faintly smiled as she and Inko helped the young man up. I don't understand. Don't beat yourself up, son. If our girl wakes up right now, she'll tell you the same thing, wouldn't she? The older gentleman said before walking back to his daughter's bed and held her hand. I don't know what to say. Izuku was flabbergasted by Ochako's parents' attitude towards him. To say that is not what he expected to happen was an understatement. The young man can only whimper at the fact that her parents did not bear ill will against him. But Maruko reassured him that it wasn't his fault. Izuku dear. Ochako said a lot of things about you. Now I see why our little T-girl loves you. She said with her hand over his shoulder. I'm sorry for making a scene. You just came here to tend to Ochako, but I made it about me instead. Before he could say a next word, Maruko interrupted him. You must have been keeping it for a while, haven't you, dear? It's okay, so please stop apologizing, dear. She uttered with a faint smile before she went back and sat beside her daughter. Izuku was still in disbelief as he remained standing by the corner with his mother standing beside her. I told you they will understand, dear. Inko told her son as she stroked his back to calm him down. At that moment it seemed like Deku pulled a thorn from his chest. Blank, underscore, blank, underscore, blank. Sorry for the short chapter and for not making an update for a while. Thanks for reading this one. I hope I can publish the next one sooner than later.